Great. Hello, YouTube. This month during Ujima Wednesdays, we are studying artists' political power. We are starting a thematically curated series of workshops today around the importance of artists creating systems and infrastructure for caring cultural economies. Today's workshop is going to focus on systems change and the role of self-organized co-ops that respond to the needs of artists. So I have the pleasure of introducing our speakers for tonight, Eddie Torres and Brandon King. Welcome both. Eddie joined Grantmakers in the Arts GIA as president and CEO in 2017. Eddie served on the GIA board of directors from 2011 to 2016. GIA just released Solidarity Not Charity, Arts and Culture Grant Making in the Solidarity Economy. This is a wonderful report that I think you all should read if you're interested, that explores how the grant making community can support culture workers and artists through a just economy. So more broadly, Eddie served as Deputy Commissioner of Cultural Affairs for New York City, where he worked on elements of the city's long-term sustainability plan. Prior to joining the NYC Department of Cultural Affairs, he was a program officer with the Rockefeller Foundation, where he worked on the foundation's support for arts and culture, jobs access, and resilience. He also served in the Dean's office at Parsons New School for Design, on the arts and culture team at the Ford Foundation, as well as on the staff of the Bronx Council of the Arts. He also holds a Master of Arts in Art History from Hunter College and a Master of Science in Management from the New School. Welcome, Eddie. I also want to introduce Brandon for tonight. Brandon King, all lowercase, is a community organizer, DJ, visual artist, overall creative, originally from Hampton Roads, Virginia, where he currently resides. Brandon moved to Jackson, Mississippi in 2014 to actualize the mission and vision inherent in the Jackson Cush Plan, a plan aimed at struggling for Black self-determination and economic democracy. Brandon worked there for 6 years as a cultural organizer, cooperative developer, and program coordinator for Cooperation Jackson, an organization of which he's a founding member. While there, Brandon served on the executive committee and was a farm anchor for Freedom Farms Cooperative. He's currently serving as a board member for the Cooperative Network and is also the community engagement coordinator for Resonate Coop, an awesome international music streaming platform that you all should look at. It's cooperatively co-owned by artists and democratically managed by artists, developers, and listeners who use the platform. His main role in that position is guiding the design and implementation of community processes and protocols to maximize democratic inclusion in this kind of platform. So thank you both for being here. I'll now pass it to Eddie to start us off.
Great, thank you very much for having me. I just want to start, I'm Eddie, I see him pronouns, and I'm coming to you from the unceded land of the Lenape-Munsee people in my apartment here in Queens. And I just wanted to start off by saying thank you. I mean, for me, this is a real privilege to be able to do this because, you are the reason that we do the work that we do at Grantmakers in the Arts. And so for me to get to be able to talk to you directly is a real honor for me, so thank you. If it's okay, I want to share some slides while I speak, so you're not spending the whole time having to look at me. Okay, great. Great, are you seeing my slides?
Yes.
Cool, all right, great. So basically, I'm just going to give you an overview of some work that we have been doing lately. Take any questions and then hand it out to Brandon. So Grantmakers in the Arts, we're basically a membership organization of arts funders. So, we're about half foundations and the other half are a mix of nonprofits and government agencies. We have about 400 members, member organizations and agencies with about 1,000 plus people. And we basically try to facilitate a combination of our engaging in advocacy on behalf of artists, workers, and community members, and facilitating peer-to-peer learning for members that do that well. So, you already heard my background. So I'm just going to go straight into describing what we did with Solidarity, Not Charity. So, when I became the president back in 2017, 2018, I worked with the board of directors to articulate, like a refreshed vision. And essentially what we said was we wanted our field, people who support arts and culture, to become increasingly investors in culture. And by that, I mean expanding the types of support that go out into the field and expanding the types of folks who receive support. So it's not just nonprofits anymore. It could also be informal collectives. It could also be worker co-ops. It could be small businesses, one. And that two, so it doesn't have to just be grants. It could also be investment. It could be loans, etc. We basically just wanted more flexibility in the field and more ways for more artists to get more money. So we were able to, as an element of making that real, we were able to commission this report. We got Caroline Woolard and Natalia Linares to basically bring this report together for us. And essentially, it's a bunch of recommendations. One, it's just an explanation of the field, the explanation of the solidarity economy and where arts and culture lived within that. But it's also recommendations for arts funders, and the recommendations are us saying, take an ecosystem-wide approach, support the development of relationships and collaborations between artists and solidarity economy networks, and collaborations between economic justice funding portfolios and culture funding portfolios. Expand funding sources beyond grant-making portfolios to endowments and investments, and also support solidarity economy entities like worker cooperatives, mutual aid groups, cooperative financial institutions, community-owned businesses, community currencies, time banks, culturally grounded and community-led giving circles and funder collaboratives. And then support public policies that are pro-worker, like guaranteed basic income, like healthcare for all. And also support the inclusion of artists, culture bearers, and cooperative and solidarity entrepreneurship programs in public education and in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And finally, to support public procurement from solidarity economy entities like worker cooperatives. So we put out the report. It has really lit up. We're really happy with that. A lot of people are promoting it. A lot of people are talking about it, which is what we wanted. And we also went in on supporting the Study into Action series, which just wrapped up, but which are on art.coop's website and our website. So I'm really happy about all of that, and I want to continue that. I want to place all of that in the larger context of what Grantmakers in the Arts does. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our advocacy and lobbying, and that may sound a little weird in the context of everything I just talked about, but let me give some context as to why advocacy and lobbying, right? The pharmaceutical industry has over 1,000 lobbyists working for it. They spend about $128 million a year to lobby on about 200 plus bills in your average year, right? And that's why there's no nation on earth that spends more on medicine than we do, where your average person has to spend more out of their pocket to just get medicine than we do, right? It's basically because they're able to influence legislation to make, one, as much money as humanly possible, and also to make all of us scared to death to lose our jobs, right? Scared to death to become sick, God knows, but scared to death to lose our jobs. So with that in mind, we spend a chunk of our time engaging in advocacy and lobbying. We have an advocacy and lobbying firm, and one of the things we most recently did was, with the Biden administration coming on board, we basically, asked them to provide further clarification on state and local flexibility to use federal funding to advance the arts and to advance arts education, and to encourage equity around the use of such funds to reach students in underserved communities, that experience a lack of equitable access to arts education. And then finally, we're basically maintaining that there's all this evidence that the arts are good for your health, that the arts are basic to wellness, that arts and culture create healthy communities. We're basically arguing that all arts engagements should be able to be reimbursed by Medicare and Medicaid, and that any RFP that goes out from Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, Housing and Urban Development's Continuum of Care for those experiencing housing instability, and other federal agencies that support community-based health interventions, that artists should be able to be paid through those, be recipients of those funds, and that it should be a lifeline to the cultural community. So we've also been sharing information about AmeriCorps and their use of the American Rescue Plan money. So essentially what this creates is an opportunity now. One, you have a lot more volunteer slots being open, and you have more money being paid to the folks who are engaging in volunteer service, which allows for BIPOC people to be able to benefit from volunteer service. Volunteer service just pays loud. I mean, it's volunteer service, right? It pays terribly, and we believe, one, that it should be worth doing, and two, that it should target artists and specifically BIPOC artists. I wanted to also very briefly share some data that we just got through a survey that we just commissioned that basically said, you know, since the pandemic began, of our members, 41% of arts grant makers have increased their giving to individual artists, and 32% will do so in the next year, and 30% of grant makers have expanded their giving to include giving to individual artists, and 24% will do so next year. And when it comes to equity in supporting the arts, we're seeing increases going to BIPOC artists and increases going to trans artists and artists with disabilities. We think all of that is fantastic, but we think that artists need more than grants. So that's why we're basically arguing for worker benefits, specifically for portable benefits for gig workers. Not exclusive to artists. We think that all gig workers should have benefits. And so we're right now beginning the process of engaging in what we call public advocacy, where we're basically putting it in front of legislators that we need to increase benefits beyond just employment. That benefits being tied to employment is a relic that, quite frankly, it gets tied back to when we didn't want to integrate hospitals. And that's ultimately why you can't get benefits outside of your employment right now, right? Because we didn't want BIPOC people to get worker benefits. We're saying that that construct is out of date, and that benefits should be portable. And there's a bunch of ways you can do it. There's a bunch of reports out there. You can do it through employer contributions. You can do it through customer surcharges, just plain taxes with the government, and through worker contributions. And you're probably in the short term going to need a combination of all of them. And there have been viable bills put out there in the Senate and in the House. They haven't gone anywhere, but serious legislators have put them out there, and we're maintaining that they really should be revisited and revised, because we think this is part of the future of treating artists as workers and treating workers as people who deserve dignity, who deserve basic human rights, and that this needs to be an inherent part of the public dialogue about arts and culture. So I just want to say, again, I am really privileged to get to be here, to be in this space with you, and I'm really grateful, so thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Eddie. Brandon, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Yeah. So this page mentioned before, and I wanted to thank the Ujima Project, Eddie, for joining and inviting me. Yeah, I'm the community engagement coordinator for Resonate Cooperative. Resonate Co-op is an international cooperative that is owned by the artists and the developers, and so it's something where we co-own and sort of democratically manage and also the governance sort of structure behind like why we're doing what we're doing. I came to this work, this person named Z, who is in Black Socialists in America. And me and Z, we connected from my work at Cooperation Jackson, it being a dual power project, a project that is geared towards deep democracy, where everybody involved is engaged in decision-making. That's the sort of experiment that Jackson is. And yeah, sort of like me transitioning out of that position, learning about this music streaming platform co-op, I was like, wow, like being a cultural worker, I was like, okay, this is something that I think has huge potential for not only for like artists, but like I think specifically artists of color, indigenous, Black artists, to be able to have music that is streamed all over the world, directly sort of funneling into communities on the front lines. And so I bring that sort of politic, to this work, and to this space. And it's been really cool. I mean, one of the things that we sort of started with Resonate Manifesto, I wanted to read off just a little bit of it so you can have a sense of where we're at and like what our politics are and like what is what we and this is the more revised one that isn't on our website. We're doing a refresh, a renewal in the upcoming months, and so y'all will see a lot of new things from us. But one of the things is art is music is art, not content. Creativity should be in the hands of the creators, not those looking to extract or exploit its value. It says, we believe that co-ops are the future of a more egalitarian internet and society. Technology must benefit all involved by weaving communities into thriving, sustainable networks that address the diverse needs of people, providing them with their life essentials. Building a worldwide network of cooperatives is a key part in rejecting the destructive power of capitalism and colonialism within our societies, and fostering and building fostering a world built on cooperation, communal control over the commons, and equality of unequals. Then I'm gonna scroll down to culture does not equal profit. Clicks or other metrics. Value is not measured in public success or monetary worth. Art is a value to society, and humanity cannot be quantified and commodified. And then one that I think hits close to home is we reject the historical basis of property as the divine right and human supremacy in ecological relations. It says this divine right over property has led to the commodification and extraction of the Earth's of the Earth's life support systems, and is also on the commodification of human beings. It says to reject these harms of colonization, the transatlantic slave trade, the genocide of indigenous peoples, the creation of underdeveloped peoples, the persecution of the LGBTQIA+ community, many others engage and align with all dispossessed communities. It says, we realize that these historical harms were fundamental to the expansion and apparent success of capitalism. By democratizing, decentralizing, and diversifying economic activity, we can lessen consumption and redistribute resources and power. Cooperation enables us to move forward in mutualism with one another and this planet, constructing an economy both visionary and life affirming. And so like those things make me, and like try to figure out like how can we expose people to this platform? How can we get folks engaged in the actual decision making of the co-op? The site that I think Paige posted, that's like our website, but we also have a discourse page where it's like a community forum page where we basically do the work of the co-op. And that page, I just want to let folks know, like all the sort of technology are coming up with or using is open source. There's a GitHub sort of link. If people are techies or developers, they can check out our GitHub page and be able to offer suggestions, but also be able to take from what we've been able to build, like as a cooperative community, and so, those are some of the principles that I feel like align this work. And, one of my goals is to put my community on. I think about these streaming sites, think about Spotify, think about iTunes, the wealth distribution, like it doesn't reach the artist. We're like with our stream service, we're doing a penny per play, and that's like astronomically sort of better than like what Spotify is kind of putting out. There's even debate like within our crew over if we should do like streaming as a thing, or like are there other ways that we can that artists can make money like using the platform. And so it's like nothing is set in stone. I feel like we have a plan, and we have a crew that like we're down to democratically sort of come up with like what makes sense for the collective. But yeah, I'm open to questions. Definitely want to sort of kick it back out. I think the one thing I do want to mention is that the more that people have control over kind of decision making about the things that rule their lives, like the more you have self-determination, the more you can control your destiny. And I see all of these sort of areas, these sort of openings as opportunity, for us to, the old Marxist term is seizing the means of production, but it's like us being able to have control over our lives and not have outside forces sort of dictating like how we live or die. And yeah, I feel I'm very excited and proud to be a part of a collective, a cooperative of people who are thinking similarly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Brandon and Eddie. I think at this point, folks on the call, welcome people asking questions in the chat or coming off of mute. I see there are some comments coming in that I'm happy to uplift, but want to give people some time to think about questions. People are kind of commenting, Brandon, that a penny per stream seems small. Can you talk about that pricing there? How much the artists get per stream?
Yeah, I mean, so in comparison, I think to the ones that are to the services that are out now with the mainstream service, the iTunes and Spotify, it's fractions of a penny, fractions upon fractions of a penny. Our like challenge is to try to make the player something that is usable, for the listener, like where they're not chalking off too much bread in order to like use the app and listen to songs, you know, and at the same time, we value the artists and we want to make sure that the artists are compensated for the streams. You know, we have one thing like after 9 plays, you own the song, and so you won't have to keep dishing off credits because we convert the money into credits. You won't have to keep dishing off credits after listening to a song for 9 times, after 9 times. But yeah, I agree. I mean, and I feel like some of the questions that people are bringing up, that's also being brought up in our forum. And some folks are like, you know, well, what's the solution? Like, how do we sort of figure this out if we don't want to do the streaming thing, if we don't like the paying people to stream? Like, what are other sort of economic opportunities or avenues that could support artists? You know, we thought of a couple, I think, as kind of sharpened us in a bit, and also kind of, you know, a lot of the different plans we had around festivals and around like people gathering together is on pause because of that, and like trying to figure out, yeah, just how this world is relating to. But we're in the process of developing a part to the player where if people want to have extra access to an artist, they have some verified credentials to be able to do so. And artists can throw like private shows for their listeners, you know, and that could be a way, you know, revenue stream, you know, coming into the artists, and artists have a more intimate connection with their listeners. So yeah, so those are some of the ideas.
Amazing. There's a question in the chat here from Sarah Calderon, who asked, how do portable benefits for gig workers work? How does that work, Eddie?
So, I mean, right now we have examples of it out in the world, but like at a really small scale, you know? So, okay, like look at employer contributions. In Massachusetts, they have a model there. Any business that has a workforce that's more than 50% independent contractors, the employer has to make a contribution that goes toward paid family and medical leave, right? But that's only partial. That's at a small scale, and it's only for one kind of benefit. For customer surcharges, like New York has a mandatory 2.5% customer surcharge on every black car ride, right? That goes towards workers' compensation. Alia, which is this portable benefits platform that was created by National Workers, Domestic Workers Alliance, that goes towards paid time off. That's a customer surcharge. It's voluntary though. So again, that's only partial. That's a partial solution to one discrete benefit. Again, worker contributions, like that's like how freelancers union works, right? But like worker contributions, that's also how Social Security works. That's how like Medicare works, right? So ultimately, we're probably going to need like a combination of all of these things to be able to bundle something that is actually useful. Right now, it exists in the world in little drips and drabs. We need it to begin to come together, and at far greater scale. And for that, you just need political will. You just need laws passed.
Yes, I think we at Ujima totally agree. Any more questions, folks on the call? I'm happy to keep dishing it out, but want to give people some space here.
Hey, I just wanted to, I'm Sakina. I just want to show some appreciation to Brandon. I love this idea of like this platform of artists collectively owning like a Spotify like place to hold the music. As an artist, I just recently moved to Oakland, but I lived in DC for 6 years. And I found that it was really far and few between to find artistic hubs that artists could go to. And I wonder, Eddie, if there are funding like available for you know, these types of co-ops to to be like artistic hubs for the artistic community to be able to uplift themselves in a cooperative way, because you know, there's a lot of places in DC and I'm sure all around the world where corporations just benefit off the artists and then the artists end up working for free.
Yeah, I think your point is completely legit. I think that the model that exists now when it comes to creating spaces for artists is extractive. The model that exists now is you get a bunch of people from sort of the real estate community to create temporary spaces that basically make a neighborhood sexy, you know, and then price the artist out. That's how, you know, so many communities work at this point. I think that grant makers are increasingly beginning to recognize that new models need to be developed. I would look to Center for Cultural Innovation there in California that I think is doing really, really important work when it comes to developing spaces and artists to be able to own their spaces. That's the first place I tell you to look.
Thank you for that resource. I'm gonna look into that.
Love it. Thank you so much. Anybody else have reactions or questions to share? I saw that someone put ampled.com in the chat, another artist-owned streaming service. Brandon, y'all know them? Do y'all work with them at all?
Yeah, they're buddies. I think a lot of their platform, you know, they offer things that are slightly different than us. It's with like artist performance sort of base. Studio, you know, streaming. They you put a track on a player sort of thing. But you know, like I think one of the co-op principles is cooperation amongst cooperatives, and like we're always trying to figure out different ways that we can collaborate. You know, if it's not on the front end, it's on the back end, just in terms of like the development piece, the tech piece with our websites. And also like, you know, cross sharing and cross posting, so people find out about each of us. Yeah, Ample is cool. Oh yeah, and I was just gonna say, I posted in the chat just a link to like how to become a member. Someone that hosts our like uploading and like the email stuff, they will check it, they will see, and we'll get back with you if you fill it out. But membership is €5 a year, and that will give you access to the player, but also to our community forum. And then there's different levels of engagement in the community forum. We're in the process of starting a worker member class, you know, for membership. Yeah, and so folks can come and be a part of that process.
Why euros? Just curious.
Oh yeah, so it's an international co-op. It's I think it's based in like Ireland. Like our bylaws and legal papers are in Ireland. Some people in Germany like founded it, I think 2017, got some money like from crypto, and was able to build it out for a bit, and then that crypto money went away, and then so like the idea was still dope, so like people held on to the idea, and like we've been building from that point. So yeah, so when I say it's international, like it really is, you know, it's folks from the US, the global South, you know, but also Europe. We're trying to get more folks from Africa and from Asia a part of the platform as well. Some folks are down.
Awesome. I'll add a question here for Eddie. I'm curious, so that report, Solidarity Not Charity, obviously I thought it was really just a landmark report that captures all that we're talking about here. I'm curious what the response has been like for you and the folks at art.coop when that came out. Are you like being chased and hounded for like requests to do different things in terms of co-ops, and are people really jazzed about this, or what have y'all seen?
Yeah, it's been really good. I mean, a lot of articles have been written about it. A lot of like conference sessions. I mean, really, the ones who are getting chased, which makes perfect logical sense, are the authors Caroline Willard and Natalia Linares, who are the real like experts, and that's been fantastic. I've been really happy to see that. For us, we're really excited to see grant makers like paying attention to it, because it gives them a chance to begin to commit money in a way that's different, in a way that's more responsive to artists' needs and community members' needs. So I'm happy about that. And right now we're working with a couple of other colleagues from Upstart Collab and an organization called Mission Investors Exchange, to develop a workshop so that folks at foundations can figure out how, rather than just use their grant making budget to support efforts like this, they can use their investment budget. Now, to put that into context, for your average foundation, about you get a chunk of money, and about 5% of it actually goes to making grants, right? And that's the law says it has to be at least 5%, so everybody aims for 5%. But that's 95% that just goes into like the traditional stock market, which is extractive on every possible level: extractive of the earth, extractive of labor, and we want to see more of that money go into actually helping people. We want to see it going to artists. We want to see it going to workers. We want to see it going to communities. And we hope that this begins to move that, so that it's not just that 5% that goes to artists and worker co-ops. It's more of the 95%.
Thank you so much for that. That makes total sense. Any more final reactions? We have about 10 minutes left. I'm wondering if Eddie or Brandon have questions for our audience, perhaps, if there are things that you would like to know from the folks on the call, or all that we discussed today.
I'm gonna use a pun. How does that resonate? Like what me and Eddie discussed today, how does that resonate with you? Is there anything that you feel that are like maybe similar, like just in terms of how y'all are viewing the work in Boston? Because I see a lot of similarities, like with just dual power and like just deep democracy, and all the stuff that folks have been mentioning. Just, I guess, hear how this is rolling off on y'all.
To be honest, like it just makes me like more feeling like complete system change is needed. So whenever I have this kind of conversation, I'm like, we need to like just completely eradicate the system we have and, step away from it. And I always wonder, like, at what point, do we do that? At what point do we continue to engage and continue to ask for, some people to care, so it's interesting. And I love this, and I'm so grateful for this space, because I feel like the energy put forward into creating more opportunity is always, beneficial.
I don't have any very specifics because I feel like I am just venturing into what might be considered artistic, areas. It's something I'm not deeply developed well in, but I resonate with Shekinah, sorry, in that I really appreciate the space and your willingness to come and share with us, help light a fire in us in Boston, specifically with Ujima and what we're trying to accomplish. So thank you.
Right on. Yeah, I feel like the crust of it, yeah, it's like, how do we de-link, from these systems that are harming us? Like, my thing is, like, I know we're not gonna do the numbers Spotify is gonna do. I know we're not gonna do the numbers iTunes is gonna do. But I know if we do our job right, then a lot of artists will be eaten. Like, our community will be fine. Like, we can carve out space for ourselves to do our thing. I believe in our capacity to do that. And we've attracted some, I guess, notable names, to the platform already, that have politics, which has been really, really cool. I think Zach Fox is one of those people. But yeah, I see somebody's hand. Is it Claudia?
Yeah, hi, I'm Claudia. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I think kind of, like from my experience in the arts here in Boston, for the most part, there's a lot of funding that's pipelined into organizations and into nonprofits that often aren't held accountable to the types of resources or the actual services or spaces that they have for artists, which is quite often just sort of lacking. Like, if there's an opportunity for an artist to show at an exhibition, the artist has to transport their own work. The artist then has to, like, maybe even find like a stanchion to display their sculpture on. And I mean, I'm not quite sure if that's just specifically unique to Boston. I don't think it is, but there's just this lack of, there's a lack of conscientiousness, a lack of mindfulness, and also there's very little just sort of loop for that to be able to be closed. So I'm just wondering, in terms of like the spaces or the opportunities that you're making or building, like how, like, is that formed? And then also, how informed are the philanthropists or other people that are donating money in terms of what's actually getting into the hands of the artists? And like, what's the feedback loop on that type of thing? Yeah.
If I can speak to that, and then Brandon, weigh in. I mean, on our part, we have this whole body of work around capitalization, which is basically, how do you actually support organizations to be able to support their stakeholders? And one of the things that we tell grant makers is, well, we don't just tell it to grant makers, we also tell it to organizations, is, there's a lot of costs that a lot of folks allow to be invisible, and that doesn't work, right? It doesn't work because, one, it's just not fair, but two, you basically have organizations that are so terrified you're going to say no that they hide a bunch of costs, and that gets pushed down, and that gets pushed down exactly the way you're talking about. That gets pushed down onto the artist, and then suddenly they're spending their money or they're breaking their back to be able to cover up for the silence of the nonprofit that didn't want to talk about, what we call full costs, right? Every cost is a cost, right? Even if you're volunteering it, that's a cost. That's your time, that's your sweat, So one, we talk about you need to ask for full costs. And then two, we tell the grant makers, you can't punish somebody for asking for full costs, right? There's a lot of these practices, we call them pretty bad best practices, and they're called best practices just because they're old practices, They're not best practices. They're just traditional practices. They've just been sticking around for a long time. And they're lousy practices. They're just old, you know? So that's basically what we do with it. Brendan?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it connects to like our co-op is online, I guess for the most part. Yeah. Yeah, I'll just stop there just to save time because yeah, I don't have anything to add on that piece.
Awesome. We have a couple of minutes left. There was a question in the chat. I'm trying to find it now. Someone asked to Eddie, how does GIA relate as part of the local arts ecosystem to business-oriented arts orgs, like the Arts and Business Council?
Yeah, so Arts and Business Council is a program that runs out of Americans for the Arts, and we work with them mostly around advocacy stuff. Like, you know, there's a big law that's being proposed on Friday called the Arts Education for All Act, and we've basically been partnering with them essentially to lobby a legislator, Representative Bonamici out of Oregon, to develop this bill to increase support for arts education. So that's like how we largely work with them. The other element of it is we advocate for, you know, I mean, corporations are a tiny part of our actual membership, largely because they've been decreasingly supporting the arts, which is messed up. And we've basically been telling them that it's messed up, essentially advocating for one, increased support for the arts out of corporations, two, to decouple that support from their communications function so that it's no longer an element of promotion. But that's one of those tensions that is, I think, inherent in the work that a lot of us do, which is, you know, you take a certain amount of your energy every day, you put it into the world that you want to see, and then a certain amount of it goes into trying to change the world as it is. And quite frankly, any level of corporate engagement is trying to change the world as it is. While I am, you know, eager to see more corporate support for the arts, I'm not eager to see more corporations. Like, I'm not eager to see, you know, to be like spending my time engaging corporations. So it's a certain amount of a balancing act.
I have a quick question for Brandon. I looked on the Resonate website quickly and saw that y'all also, looks like y'all interact with labels as well, like directly. And I'm just curious to know, like, what does that look like? What does that look like in terms of just like having their, have you found, has the interest in this platform mostly come from like individuals, or have you like actually witnessed like folks like collective like sort of labels like really interested in like bringing forth a number of people to be part of this, or
Yeah,
not uncommon? Just like curious.
yeah, totally. So there's been a couple like techno labels out of Berlin that are like, just because I feel like their style is already kind of open source and like wanting people to have access and wanting people to wanted to democratically kind of share their value, you know, with a cooperative community. So some folks come at it, like labels come at it with their artists already aligned politically, you know, and then there's some individuals like artists who we've talked to who have been on labels. You have a conversation with them just around like liability for us to be able to post, you know, their music if they want it on. And some artists even have exclusive sort of things on our platform that aren't on the other ones like Spotify or iTunes. But yeah, I mean, for me, like there's artists that I and labels that I know that operate primarily on Bandcamp that I want to try to shift them from Bandcamp to Resonate. And you know, not even shift. I mean, like, I feel like you could use them all. Maybe use the one that's going back to artists and going back to the people that make the stuff. Use that one more, maybe. Because I'm not about limiting choices, but like also, yeah, this one is a cool choice.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that's a good note to end on. We are at time. So thank you so much, Brandon and Eddie, for tonight. This was wonderful. Any final thoughts before we wrap up the workshop portion?
No, I just want to say thank you again. This is, you know, you're the reason that we do the work that we do. So to get to spend this evening with you just meant a lot to me. So thank you.
Yeah, same. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And also too, it's a small world because I think Nati worked on the grant, the grant making report, and Nati is a board member of Resonate Co-op. So
I love that.
It's cross weaving, you know. And she's on an NEC, New Economy Coalition. Cooperation Jackson was a part of that. So it's just, I think we're all exactly like right where we're supposed to be. Yeah, thank y'all so much for inviting us to talk, inviting me to talk. And yeah, I'll see y'all around. I'm gonna text my email address. People want to hit me up, ask about Resonate, ask about systems change. I'm around.
Yes, thank you so much for doing that. All right, everyone, we're going to end the recording here, and we're going to move into our member team. So if you're here for study team or time bank, stick around and we'll say our non-awkward goodbye.
Peace, peace.
Bye, Brandon. Bye, Eddie. Thank you.